When was the last time Oprah actually spent time hanging out with a working class person in America? She's on her Montecito estate with one of the most beautiful mansions known to man. And that is why she did not follow up with Kamala Harris in response to that stupid gun question with, well, you're on camera saying that you favor mandatory gun buybacks. So how would that work? The Oprah enthusiasm worked when it was genuine.
Shortly after the Oscars, a 3.9 magnitude earthquake rocked L.A. The tremors were so powerful, Oprah's ass is still moving. Why would you laugh at that? That's fat shamers.
Remember when Oprah was untouchable? The queen of couch confessions, book clubs, and giving away cars. Well, Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly just took that crown, tossed it in a blender, and hit exposed Gutfeld came in swinging with sarcasm so sharp, it could slice through a vision board. While Megyn delivered the kind of icy precision that turned Oprah from media mogul into something closer to a motivational meme gone wrong.
She first hit the scene in like the 1980s, and she was fresh out of Chicago. She was in Chicago for the launch of her national talk show. She was something electric and interesting and authentic, you know? I miss fat Oprah. She was just genuine. Now this thin Ozempic Oprah has lost, along with the pounds, her heart, her sense of authenticity. And what we're getting these days is this cleansed elite billionaire version who wants to scrub the record of facts.
It's true, the Harris interview did feel like a very special episode of Oprah, but instead of everybody getting a new car, everybody got an aneurysm.
She's a billionaire, sure, but at this point, when Oprah speaks, birds allegedly cry, flowers bloom, and stock markets trembleth, you ask her diehard fans. But lately, her spiritual TED Talk energy is starting to sound more like a parody of itself. Between pushing the American dream while selling $900 moisturizers and launching wellness initiatives that cost more than a semester at Harvard, Oprah has quietly transformed into a walking contradiction swaddled in designer and sprinkled with enlightenment buzzwords.
A week of women getting up there and trying to get us to feel sorry for them. To Oprah, literally one of the richest people, forget women, one of the richest people on earth, and talk about, in part, the misogyny and racism she's faced from the country that made her a $2.6 billion.
And here comes Megyn Kelly armed with her signature, I'm so over this squint, and years of journalistic trauma ready to skewer the Empress of Empathy with surgical precision. You could practically feel the Botox freeze across Hollywood when Megyn called out the hypocrisy, because let's face it, Oprah has officially crossed into the sacred realm of unintentional self-parody. She used to give people cars. Now, she gives people existential crises wrapped in branding deals.
Words, Oprah's list of favorite things. So Oprah released her annual list of favorite things, and as usual, there are lots of expensive stuff. $1,000 pizza oven, $590 drip coffee maker, $80 of luxury salt. Sadly, no proposal from Stedman.
Gutfeld, meanwhile, didn't even pretend to be subtle. He came in swinging with a verbal sledgehammer, the finesse of a WWE promo, and the energy of someone who just discovered Oprah's charging $400 for a gratitude journal. Yes, the same woman who once turned crying on a couch into a media empire is now lecturing the struggling middle class on why they should feel grateful for their suffering.
Went over this first to make sure it wasn't too extravagant.
You're missing the best one.
What?
Okay, it is a little journal, and it's called I'm Dead, Now What? Important information on my belongings, business affairs, and wishes. Hand this to someone at Christmas, I dare you.
It's almost adorable how Oprah thinks we've forgotten who she really is. The same woman who curated her own televised church for decades, convincing millions that every problem could be solved with a soft voice, a therapist, and 30 minutes of uninterrupted commercial breaks. Oprah doesn't do poverty, she collects it like it's vintage. She packages other people's pain into Emmy-winning content, then sells it back to them with a side of inspirational slogans and overpriced herbal tea. Megyn Kelly wasn't having it tanned. Why would she? Watching Oprah pretend she's still in touch with real people is like watching a Kardashian give farming advice. The disconnect is cosmic. This is a woman who travels with an entourage of personal chefs, stylists, wellness gurus, and probably an emotional support yacht. But sure, tell us more about resilience. Oprah once said people should just be themselves. A touching message from someone who hasn't been herself since the mid-90s. She's more brand than human now. There's a legal team for her, image and an entire crew dedicated to filtering the lighting on her life. Authenticity for Oprah is a multi-million-dollar production with 5 camera angles and a fragrance line.
Oprah's an icon who, unlike traditional politicians, could match a wild card like Donald Trump. And if she won, she could give everyone a free car. And how different is that really from most Democrats?
Gutfeld had an absolute field day, tearing into Oprah like she'd just endorsed kale-flavored air. He didn't hold back, pointing out that the woman who once claimed to be just a girl from Mississippi now lives in a mansion with its own zip code and probably needs a Sherpa to get from the kitchen to the indoor spa. You can't preach simplicity. He joked, when your backyard has a vineyard and your gardeners are named after Greek gods. But what really launched the roast into orbit was Oprah's latest stunt, a humanitarian documentary. You know, the one where she journeys into the world of the downtrodden flanked by a full camera crew, makeup artists, and more lighting than a Marvel film. There's something uniquely toned up about standing in front of a homeless shelter wearing a $5,000 coat, solemnly narrating the human condition like it's the latest trend in interior design. Megyn Kelly didn't blink. She shredded Oprah's emotional exploitation like it was a bad Lifetime script and, honestly, it was. Oprah didn't create awareness, she produced sadness, packaged grief, desperation, and suffering with dramatic piano scores, and sold it as empathy. That it wasn't awareness, it was aestheticized despair. And Oprah, of course, was the star.
We've got to talk about the failure of the celebrity. Oprah Winfrey. You have no power. You do not have any control over this electorate. Neither do you, J-Lo. Let's take a look at Oprah's final closing message on the campaign trail.
We don't get to sit this one out. If we don't show up tomorrow, it is entirely possible that we will not have the opportunity to ever cast a ballot again. We are voting to save ourselves from this precipice of death.
Even the donations came with a price tag. I'm here to help, she said, but the help always came with a plug. Oprah doesn't give, she brands. She doesn't support causes, she monetizes them. Her philanthropy is a business plan wrapped in sentiment. Every tragedy she visits becomes a carefully lit PR campaign. She's not solving problems, she's collecting content. Greg Gutfeld picked this apart like he was filleting a fish. He joked that Oprah's idea of outreach is flying first class to a disaster zone, then charging for the inspirational audiobook afterward. And frankly, he's not wrong. The whole thing reeks of Hollywood sanctimony. Nothing says, I care, like stepping over debris in couture heels, while your assistant reapplies lip gloss between takes. Oprah's empire is built on emotions. And she manipulates them like Mozart played the piano. She's the queen of televised trauma, maestro of misery, masterfully orchestrating feel-good moments with all the sincerity of a Vegas magician. And you almost have to admire the grift. It's elegant, it's relentless, and it's unbelievably lucrative. She's turned empathy into an algorithm and every click pays dividends.
I looked at this list and you know what wasn't on there? Anything about Maui. Right? At one point in time, she and The Rock made that video to try to help out everybody who was hurt by the fire. And then that was just quickly discarded. She's like, okay, that didn't work. Who wants slippers? You want slippers. You get a pair of slippers. You're all getting slippers.
Do you think she might?
But Megyn wasn't done. She dragged out the receipts like it was Black Friday and shredded Oprah's entire catalog of contradictions. Like how she's always preaching balance while secretly running more businesses than a hedge fund. Or how she champions self-love yet continues to sell products that subtly tell you you're not enough until you buy more. It's a spiritual hustle cloaked in silk. Greg Gutfeld added that Oprah's book club might as well be called mandatory reading for future disappointment. Every pick is either a trauma memoir, a philosophical ramble, or something so emotionally draining you need therapy afterward. But it's all framed as enlightenment, like wallowing in fictional despair is suddenly a moral achievement. And don't even start on her political hot takes. Oprah's endorsements are like celebrity horoscopes, vague, irrelevant, and somehow still make people nervous. She dips her toes into politics like it's a hot tub, just enough to make waves, never enough to get wet. She wants the clout of activism without the responsibility. One speech here, one strategic appearance there, and she's hailed as a visionary. Meanwhile, actual changemakers are ignored because they don't have a skincare line. Megyn obliterated that illusion, pointing out that Oprah's activism has all the depth of a Hallmark card. She stands for hope and change, in the same way air stands for breathing. It's technically there, but it's not doing anything revolutionary. Oprah is the queen of safe rebellion. A protester in pearls.
Most of us who grew up when we did. And only now did I realize I've been getting spoon-fed propaganda from this woman for years. I always took her little setup packages as gospel. You know, before I was a reporter, I never even thought to question whether Oprah might be intentionally misleading me. Then last night, the dawn came and I was like, oh my God, she is not a reporter. She's a propagandist. She's trying to shove messaging down my throat of whatever she believes, not.
Then there's Oprah's obsession with dieting, rebirth, and reinventionase. If she's a phoenix made of gluten. Every few years, she announces a new spiritual awakening, usually accompanied by a line of supplements and a 3-part documentary. And every time, it's the same story. She found herself again, somewhere between a scenic retreat in Maui and a lucrative deal with Weight Watchers. Gutfeld didn't hesitate to call it out. He joked that Oprah's entire career is a never-ending reboot of her own personality. One minute she's a weight loss warrior. The next she's a spiritual guru. And then suddenly she's hosting roundtables on racial healing with the subtlety of a fortune cookie. She reinvents herself more often than most people change their Wi-Fi passwords. And yet, through all of this, she insists she's relatable. As if the average American has the luxury of pausing their soul-searching journey because their private chef called in sick. It's exhausting watching her pretend she's still part of the everyday struggle. Her version of roughing it probably includes room service delays. Megyn Kelly ripped this facade wide open, slicing through the fluff like a hot knife through branded vegan butter. She reminded everyone that Oprah's world is not our world. Her obstacles are curated, her pain is platformed, her struggles are edited for prime time and softened with piano music.
So you got salt, you got cheese, you got pizza.
Greg, I'm going to stop you there.
Yes.
I treat this like the list I get from my kids. They send me emails because they know when I laugh in their face, it hurts. Anyone who wants a $1,000 pizza oven, you're going to get what Kat picked out. Like, that's the greatest gift you can give somebody because you can't return it. Because returning it, oh, you think you're immortal? You think you're better than us? Like, get your affairs in order. That's the great, you stole the show. They wanted me to talk about a dog towel. That, towel's a towel. Great job. That's the best gift ever. And Oprah has never read this, just like I don't read the list from my kids send me.
And yet, Oprah still positions herself as the voice of the people, a billionaire who somehow believes she represents the underdog. That's like Jeff Bezos claiming he understands warehouse workers because he once read an article about sore feet. Greg Gutfeld wrapped it all up by saying what most people are too polite to admit. Oprah is not empowering anyone, she's selling the illusion of empowerment, dressed in pastel and wrapped in affirmations. She's mastered the art of saying nothing while sounding profound. It's all tone, no content. All sparkle, no substance. And perhaps the cruelest irony. People still buy it. Millions cling to her words like scripture, forgetting that behind every aha moment is a marketing team and a product launch. Oprah isn't a movement, she's a market. Less a leader, more a lifestyle brand. Like yoga pants with a personality. Megyn and Greg didn't tear her down out of spite. They did it out of exasperation. Because watching Oprah continue to play the role of Mother Earth while cashing checks from corporate heaven is like watching a movie that refuses to end Devon, though the plot wore thin years ago.
Didn't help by sort of saying it's cheating. What do you mean it's cheating? It's a drug that helps people control their appetite. How is that cheating? So she was probably on the wrong side of things when she was saying that. And now I think she was sort of forced to admit, because as you say, it's obvious. Somebody like Oprah who's constantly up and down with the weight and hasn't been on the skinnier side for a long time. And then suddenly, after this miracle drug comes out, like, we know. But she's still a spokesperson for Weight Watchers. And I guess she's going to still tell us that the point system is really what's behind the.
So, the next time Oprah tells you to embrace the journey, remember her journey includes a fleet of assistants, an on-call therapist, and an Instagram filter that could resurrect Cleopatra. Meanwhile, the only journey most people are on is figuring out how to pay rent before their next existential crisis. But don't worry, there's probably a book in her club for that too. And trust me, it'll cost $29.99 plus shipping. The brilliance of this entire charade is how effortlessly Oprah masquerades as a beacon of enlightenment while lounging in marble tubs big enough to house a small nation. At this point, it's practically performance art. She doesn't walk, she glides through crises, trailed by a camera crew and monogrammed herbal mist. Her compassion, always pre-scheduled. Her empathy, perfectly lit from stage left. This is a woman who could host a symposium on suffering from her infinity pool and still claim to feel your pain. Meanwhile, Megyn Kelly's takedown wasn't just a critique, it was a public unmasking. She exposed the empire of faux inspiration for what it truly is, a shrine to image management. And Greg Gutfeld. He bulldozed the velvet facade with punchlines sharp enough to make even the lighting crew wince. The contrast is staggering one. Woman marketing resilience from a chaise lounge while the rest of us dodge bills, burnout, and potholes. Yet somehow, we're still expected to take notes. The self-help sermons ring hollow when they echo from a climate-controlled wine cellar. That's not motivation, it's melodrama in Louboutins. And perhaps the most delusional part. Oprah still believes she's relatable, like her nearest neighbor isn't a hedge fund. Welcome to the gospel according to wealth.